Hello guys, welcome back to Wagner's Tech Talk. Today I have a lot of things that I want to cover and I think you're really going to enjoy it. If you're new to Synology NAS devices, then this is a great video for you to start out with. 2.5 weeks I've had my Synology DS918 Plus and I love it. It's a wonderful device, but there were a few things that I had to figure out along the way, such as how do I copy my data over to the Synology NAS. I had several terabytes of information that needed to be copied. One way was not so good, and then I found a better way. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Next, I'm going to explain the model number scheme of the Synology NAS. I decided to perform a RAM upgrade on my Synology NAS so I could play around with more virtual machines than I could with the stock memory. So I upgraded it from 4 gigabytes up to 16, and wow, it's great. I love it. Additionally, we're going to install Virtual Machine Manager, or VMM, and we're going to go ahead and install Linux Mint to the virtual machine. I'm going to show you how to do that. We have a lot to cover. I hope you'll stick with us throughout the entire video because I'm sure you're going to pick up on little things that are going to be helpful to you. So let's get started. One of the first things that you're going to need to do when you set up your Synology NAS is move your existing data over to the NAS. There's a number of different ways you can do that. If you have a very fast network, you could possibly just copy them directly over the network if the files are not too big and you don't have that much data to move over. But in my case, I had several terabytes of data that I needed to move over. And I first started with a device that was a USB 2.0 to eSATA connector, and that one did not work very good. It was very slow, very time consuming. It took roughly, for one of the drives, it took about 8 hours to copy all the data from that drive. And then after doing that with one drive, knowing I have 7 more waiting to be copied, I had to find a better solution. So I got on Amazon and I picked up another device that's a USB 3.0 adapter to eSATA, and wow, huge difference. What was previously taking several hours, 8 hours or more in some cases, went down to about 2 or 3. So I was very happy about that. So what I'm going to do is show you the device that I purchased in case you want to do the same and how to hook it up. Basically, this is what I picked up. It's the DigiYes, and here's what it looks like. Basically, you have your SATA connection going here. That then goes to a USB 3.0, and then you have a power adapter that plugs into the back of it. There's a little port here for the power, and you take this and you connect it up to your eSATA on your hard drive. So in my case, it's going to plug in like so. So there you go. This is a 2 terabyte hard drive, and I can take this, plug the power in, and plug the USB 3.0 connection directly into the front of the NAS, and then I can access the data directly off this hard drive and transfer it to whatever share on the NAS that I want to. I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so once you plug in the connector, the USB 3.0 connection to your Synology NAS, you'll notice an icon up here in the upper right. If I click that, that tells me that I have the hard drive connected up and that the NAS recognizes it. From there, I can go to File Station, and I can look at all my shares, and one thing that you'll notice down here is the USB Share 1. Now if I click that, now I have the contents of the hard drive that I want to copy data from And notice here on this particular machine you have DE. That stands for the drive extender. That was one of the features of the HP EX MediaSmart series. Basically, it allowed it to clone folders to multiple drives for redundancy. So what we can do is go into DE, and I can go to Shares or Folders. I'm going to go to Shares, and let's say I want to copy music. So I right click, or I could select all of them. I can go in here and select everything that I have here, right click, and go to Copy To, and now it's asking me to choose a destination. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set it for EX475 incoming, and if the file already exists, skip it, click OK, and now I am copying those files to that location. And you'll notice in the upper right hand corner we have a background test that's running. It's copying the files, and when that's done, after a couple hours, depending on how much data you have, then you'll have all that stuff copied over. So hopefully this has been helpful in showing you how to copy your existing data over to your NAS. When you're done copying the files, you want to click here and hit the eject button. And after you click that, it says, do you want to eject this device? Click yes. Now it's no longer there in the upper right hand corner, and you can safely remove the drive. One thing that I've learned recently is the naming scheme of the model numbers for the Synology NAS actually makes sense. It makes it very easy to tell you what the NAS is capable of. For instance, it starts out typically with DS, or disk station. Then you have some number. The two far right numbers represent the year it was manufactured. And then the other numbers in front of it tell you the maximum number of drives that can be installed in that particular NAS. So in my case, I'm using a DS918. Now the NAS itself only has 4 bays for installing hard drives. However, you can get an extension cable and box that can plug into the eSATA port that can expand that particular NAS, so you can install 9 drives. So that's where you get the 918. Additionally, other drives or other NAS devices may be 418. That means the maximum number of drives that you can install are 4 on that particular NAS. So hopefully that clarifies things a little bit as far as the naming scheme of the Synology NAS. The other day when I woke up, I came into the office and I noticed the NAS was not up and running, the Synology DS918 Plus. I was a bit concerned. I thought, well, I hope it didn't have anything to do with the memory that I just added to the machine. As it turned out, we had a power outage around 8 in the morning, and when that occurred, I noticed that the plug that I had the NAS connected up to the UPS was not a powered port, so that allowed the power to cut off, which shut down the NAS. The other thing is, I was kind of concerned, why didn't the NAS come back up on its own? Well, that's because you have to configure it. I didn't know that. So I'm going to show you how to do that. First, we'll go over to Control Panel, and then we'll go to Hardware and Power. Now if you don't see all these icons here, there's an option up here for Advanced Mode or Basic Mode. If I click Basic Mode, it'll put me back here, and then if I click Advanced Mode, it'll take you back and give you a few more options. But basically I went to Hardware and Power, and then you'll notice up here, General, restart automatically after a power failure. It's a good idea to make sure that the plug that you have connected between the NAS and the UPS, you do have a UPS running, right? It's highly recommended. But make sure that you have the power cord going to the correct port on the UPS. It's also a good idea to hook up the USB cable that allows it to shut down safely in the event that the power drops significantly or the battery level drops significantly in the UPS. Then it can properly shut down the NAS for you. But anyway, you might want to make sure that you have this option checked to bring your NAS back up, especially if you're going to be on vacation or something like that. One of the other things that you might want to do is to be able to try out an alternative operating system, let's say Linux or ReactOS. You could use whatever flavor of Linux that you want to use, such as Linux Mint, Ubuntu. There's all kinds of different operating systems that you may want to try, even Windows. You can run all of these within your NAS. If you want to try out a particular version, it's real easy. What you want to do is use Virtual Machine Manager, or VMM, and I'm going to show you how to do that very quickly. I've got a more detailed video of how to install ReactOS on Virtual Machine Manager. I'll put a link up here that you can click on. It'll take you to that video so you can see how to do that in much more detail than what I'm about to show you. But let's go ahead and boot up Linux Mint just so we can see what it looks like and how Virtual Machine Manager can run it. So let's go ahead and swap over here, and we're going to go to Package Center first, and I'm going to show you where to download Virtual Machine Manager if you don't already have it installed. So you go to Package Center, scroll down, and we should see Virtual Machine Manager right here. Now, if you don't already have it installed, there'll be an install button for you. I already have it installed, so in my case, I just click open. In your case, you may have to click install. So I'll click open. The first thing you want to do is mount the image, and what we're going to do is click image, and we'll go up here and click create. And then here we're going to select an ISO that I already have copied to the NAS. So I downloaded the ISO image and I copied it to a shared folder inside the disk station. So I can just select it. You can have a library of operating systems that you may want to try. So in my case, I go to software, which is my share, and then I go down to ISOs, and then Linux. And then from here, I can click Linux Mint, Linux Mint 19 Cinnamon 64-bit. So I hit select, and now I can click next, and that storage location is fine. So I'll just click it, click apply. Okay, so now we have the ISO available. We can see it up here. It's creating it, and once that says healthy, then we can go on and create the virtual machine itself. Okay, so now that we have our image created, let's go ahead and create the virtual machine. So to do that, we'll click on Virtual Machine, and then we'll click Create. And here you can choose whatever operating system you're going to install. In our case, we're going to use Linux. So we'll select Linux, we'll click Next, and that's fine for our storage. And we'll say Linux Mint 19. And we'll give it 2 cores. This particular machine has 4. And we'll give it 2 gigs of RAM. Everything else is fine. We'll click Next. And now it wants a ISO for boot up, so we'll select Linux Mint 19 Cinnamon 64-bit, and we'll give it 12 gigabytes of disk space. The minimum for Linux Mint, I believe, is 10.7 gigabytes. So we'll click Next, and our network is default VM network. That's fine. We'll hit Next. I don't want it to auto start. Everything else is fine. I'll click Next. And then I'll give myself access to it, which I already have, but we'll go ahead and do it anyway. Click Apply, and now it's going to create our virtual machine for Linux Mint. Now this doesn't mean it's installed. We will have to install it. So we're going to turn on the machine. So we got Linux Mint powered off. We're now going to power it on. Okay, and then once you do that, you want to click connect to connect up to the virtual machine. So I'm going to zoom out here and click connect. As you can see, it's connecting. Linux Mint 19 is starting up. Go ahead and go into full screen mode, and we'll zoom in a little bit. And here we have the install Linux Mint. We booted off the CD, but we haven't installed it. So I'm going to right click and click open to begin the installer. Okay, now it's asking for our language. We'll click English, continue. And the keyboard layout is English, in my case. Install third-party software for graphics, Wi-Fi hardware. I'll go ahead and check that. Okay, now it's saying it has no operating system detected. What do you want to do? I'm going to tell it to erase and install Linux Mint. Install now. And I'm going to click continue to write the changes to the disk. That time zone is correct. Click continue. And I'll just create an account here. Tell it to log in automatically. Give it a weak password. I don't really care because I'm going to blow this away later. Click continue. And now it's going to copy the files and install Linux Mint. Okay, so the install has completed for Linux Mint. At this point, we'll just hit restart. And after restart, we should have our virtual machine with Linux Mint up and running. Okay, so it's asking me to remove the installation disk. So to do that, we'll switch back over to our NAS and go to Linux Mint, go to Edit, and where it says Storage, the ISO file for boot up, we're going to unmount that. So it's now unmounted, and we'll click OK. And we'll go back over to Linux Mint and press enter, because now we have removed the disk. Okay, now that it's booted up, first thing I want to do personally is change the resolution of the desktop. To do that, I'm going to go down to the menu in the bottom left and go up to the control panel. Click here. And then I'm going to scroll down until I see display. Double click. And I'm going to change this to let's make it 1368 by 768. Click apply. Zoom out so we can see it a little better. That looks a little bit better here. So I'm going to say keep this configuration. Close. And here's our welcome menu. I'll tell it not to show this on startup by unchecking it. Hit close. And from here you can test out any applications that are included with Linux Mint, including various Office applications. If you go to Office, there's a spreadsheet program within LibreOffice. And then from here we can put in a couple of numbers. And we'll say equals sum, give it a range, in parentheses, hit enter, and it gives us the total. very common for spreadsheets to have these kind of formulas. So now we could change this to 50 and it'll recalculate the total down here. So yeah, this is very cool, very useful. Let's go ahead and exit out of Calc. And let's see what other applications we have. We've got a database program, a drawing program, Impress, which I believe is like a PowerPoint type equivalent, math, and a Office Writer, which is like Microsoft Word. There's Internet. We have a web browser. Let's go ahead and try that out. Okay, so let's go to our favorite YouTube site, youtube.com/Wagner's Tech Talk. So there you have it. There's Linux Mint running on the NAS. It runs fairly well. My CPU is currently being hammered right now due to installing some software earlier. But anyway, it is looking very good. You have a lot of options here. Now that I'm done, I'm going to go ahead and click the menu button, Power, and I'm going to shut down this virtual machine. Exit out of full screen. And now our virtual machine is powered off. Pretty cool, huh? This is certainly something that you may want to investigate. If you have a Synology NAS, this is a very powerful feature. It's very handy, very easy to use as well. I do want to make one disclaimer about the upgrade from the 4 to 16 gigabyte RAM upgrade. It very well could void your warranty. I personally am willing to take the risk with that. I'll keep the original 4 gigabytes of RAM available should any problems arise. But I do want to make that disclaimer that you know, it could cause you some problems with your warranty on your Synology NAS. That said, I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm just a rebel. I'm that kind of guy. So let's go. What we're going to do is install this memory, which is a crucial 16 gig 2x8. I'll leave a link in the description below so that if you're interested in doing the same thing, you can. Alright, first thing we're going to do is remove the drive. In this NAS, I only have one drive, which is a 12 terabyte Iron Wolf Seagate drive. Take that and set that very carefully over here. Now we're going to remove the other bays. Alright, and after we do that, you can see we have two memory slots, one here which is populated with 4 gigabytes and this one which is unpopulated. So what we're going to do is take both of those and replace it with this. So to do that, first you want to touch something metal so you don't shock the chips. So there, I've touched something metal. So I'm going to push here and it should just kind of pop out. Alright, here's the one. So there's the Synology memory. I'll set that off to the side. I'm going to open the crucial memory. There we go. And I'm going to take one of these and insert it into where the original memory was. Pops right in. Now we'll do the other one. And this one's going to go upside down. That is, the label faces down. Alright, that's it. Let's give it a try. We'll have to put everything back together again. Put the 12 terabyte drive in. And we'll put the covers in. I always call it something different, don't I? Faceplate, cover, dry bay. I should find out the actual name for these things. Sliders. Alright, so it's all installed. Let's power it up and see what happens. Alright, so let's power it on. Well, that's a good sign. Seeing disk activity. Let's see if I can log into it. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was very entertaining. Some of the stuff is kind of dry. You know, it's hard to make it too entertaining. But I hope it was interesting for you, and that you learned a few things out of this video as well. If you enjoyed the video, please click the like button. If you didn't, go ahead and click the dislike. You know, it happens. Ever makes sense. And then, if you would, please click the subscribe button. It lets me know that you enjoyed the video and that you want to see more, and I will use that to help drive my future videos when I have something pertinent or something useful to share with you. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you soon.